Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. Happy Easter. It's good to see everyone. Obviously, I'm feeling a little chicky today. So, okay, Jana's going to go. Oh my gosh, she's going to say this. So, there's a new show coming on called The Chicken Sisters. Is that what you said? So, it's like, who wants to be my sister? I told her. So anyway, my name is Shari Humes, and I'm the platform assistant or service assistant today, and I want to welcome you here to Unity, and Frank's going to tell us what he's going to talk about today.
Good morning, I'm Reverend Frank, for those who haven't met me, and the talk title today's, well, you have to remember this is really fun because many of us have been doing a book called What's in the Way is the Way. So appropriately, the Easter talk tells, what's in the way? and maybe how easily it can be moved. So anyhow, happy Easter.
Okay, today we have the joy of singing choir, and so we want to thank them for Marcia and Kathy as well. And we have a guest musician, somebody I know. My husband Larry's going to be playing on the horn, so he's a guest musician. Please come together as one in unity, gathering in mind and heart to pray. In prayer, we realize an idea in our heart and mind is to clothe it with the life, light, and omnipresent intelligence of Source Divine. To actualize a prayer is to feel it. A prayer is like a seed in the ground that will bring forth a new stem of life and experience fulfillment. Plant these seeds and witness life expand. Dearest source of all, I feel such gratefulness. I have appreciation for all that I have and all that is coming to me. Each blessing I experience fills my heart with joy. The more I appreciate, the more I feel rich in life. I want others to feel this richness. If you have someone in your life that you want to send the abundance of health, peace, happiness, strength, take a moment to do so. And so it is. Now I invite you into a spa of physical and emotional relaxation. Meditation is an energy bath for your mind and body to relax and renew. Begin by taking a deep breath, a deep, slow breath in. As you release your breath each time, feel your body relax. follow your breath for several cycles. To experience flow in life is to ride on the river of love and life with Spirit Divine. Being in the flow feels fun, playful, creative. When in the flow of life, any obstacle becomes an opportunity. Believe in yourself to know your way. This is your life experience to know any stone can be rolled away. Being in the flow is knowing, delighting that you create with the Creator. Breathe in. In the flow, you are in a stream of infinite possibility. Creating with the Creator rolls away any obstacles. Affirm within, what I imagine in my mind feels true in my heart and is created by an omnipresent abundance. What I imagine in my mind feels true in my heart. Affirm within these wise words from Hafiz. For I have learned that every heart will get what it prays for most. For what I have learned, that every heart will get what it prays for most. Breathe in. My heart knows my truth. I float in the stream of infinite possibility. Any stone can be rolled away. What is in the way is the way. My heart knows my truth. I float in the stream of infinite possibility. Through your day, allow your prayers to echo in the chambers of your heart and soul. You are a co-creator with God, with Spirit Divine. All things are possible in the stream of infinite possibility. And so it is. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you. Well, happy Easter. I've been looking forward to this talk for a while. And a lot of it is, for those of you who have been in the class with me, it's a Mary O'Malley book called What's in the Way is the Way. What's in the Way is the Way. And so with that lens, I went back and read an Easter story. And for some of you may know, like, this is my 4th year. And on this year, what I've been leaning into was this piece we call Mark, or Gospel of Mark. And there's a fascinating story, an Easter story that comes from the Gospel of Mark. And I'm not sure, maybe we haven't quite taken it in the way I took it in this time. So let me share it with you. It's really quite profound. So the Sabbath was over, and early the next day, when the sun was just coming up, 3 of Jesus' students, their name was Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James, and Salome, went to the tomb to anoint the body of Jesus. And while they were on the way, they were wondering to themselves, who's going to roll away the stone? And when they got there, they found that the stone, which was very huge, had already been rolled away. And so they walked into the tomb, and there on the right was a young man dressed in a white robe and said to them, "Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You seek for Jesus, the Nazarene who was crucified. He's not here. He's been resurrected, as he told you he would be. And so now go on your way." There it is again. "Go on your way and go tell Peter and the disciples what you have seen, and tell those brothers that Jesus will meet them in Galilee." So remember, you tell them, Peter and the brothers, the other students, that Jesus will meet them in Galilee. So they left the tomb. They were beside themselves, and they didn't say a word. Curtain closes. End of the story. Done. Yeah, that's Mark. Curtain closes. And you're going, yeah, but, what happened to Jesus? But I thought the stories had something about meeting Jesus on the beach, and they had fish, and Jesus walked through walls, and they had this discussion, and Jesus gave them final commandments. In the Gospel of Mark, go and tell the brothers. Go tell everybody. And they were just like, we don't know what to do. They were beside themselves. And they didn't say a word. Story over. Ooh, Mark is so much fun. Why? So I want to just look at this piece from 2 ways. One, a little bit of the historical story of why maybe the story was told exactly this way. And another way, just a tad bit of metaphysics. But let's do the unity metaphysics part first. And for those who aren't as familiar, when we say unity metaphysics, we typically notice that every character and every major component of any of these scripture stories has a significance. And it has a meaning, and we want to take a look at those meanings. And so there's 3 students. And right away I thought, well, always when Jesus was in his ministry, always took Peter, James, and John. Peter, James, and John. Peter, faith. John, heart, love. And James, which stood for wisdom. Wisdom, faith, and love. Go with me. Wisdom, faith, and love are these things that accompanies. So I thought maybe it was the same, but I found out something very, very interesting. Mary Magdalene, 3 disciples, 3 students. First off, Mary Magdalene, who was represented by love. And then Mary, the mother of James, the younger, who's represented by order, divine order. Notice this is the order. Look for the pattern. Look for the order of things. And Salome, who was married to Zebedee, who was the mom of James and John. So there's James again. There's John. So you get Mary, which is love, John, which is double love, James, which is wisdom, and order. at this point order. The representative faith wasn't there at this point. It was just, do you see the order? Do you see how it's unfolding? Do you see the pattern? The person, was it an angel, a young man? It's kind of unknown. It's a storytelling device to say someone's got to explain to these three students what the heck is happening. Jesus is resurrected, like he told you. I mean, this was going to happen. Been saying it all along. Of course, it was difficult to understand at the time, because sometimes when things are happening, when there's a major transition, when there's a new worldview, when something is dawning, when there's a new time approaching, when there's a new way of being present in the world and understanding, when there's a new level of consciousness ascending and emerging, when the people are in it, it is sometimes quite challenging to see that it's happening. When you're in those times, when new things are emerging and new things are coming forward, a new level of consciousness becomes available, like maybe right now, it is sometimes hard for the people in it to see it all. But can we trust that even if we don't see it all, that we can be in the flow of its emergence? How do we do that? Can we trust that we can be in the flow of its emergence? And what are the rocks, the huge stones, the levels of the heaviness that say, I want to see it, I want to be on the way, I want to pass through into the tomb to see, I want to pass through out of the tomb and be on my way. The early communities, many of the early communities of the Jesus followers, the students of Jesus who started early communities, they called themselves the people of the way. We're on the way. We're understanding, we're emerging the consciousness of what this story is all about. We're on the way. Or the communities of, I love this other one, many of them were called the communities of Jesus anointed. Of course, that was Aramaic and Hebrew. What got translated into Greek, it became Christ. That was a Greek interpretation. They said Jesus Christ, but it was Jesus the anointed, the people following this Jesus anointed. And what's interesting about that is, when was Jesus ever anointed? Oh, we say he's anointed spiritually, but when physically? 2 times, an unknown named woman, some people think Mary Magdalene, who cried tears on his feet, and Mary of Bethany in another story, in a different gospel, who cried and anointed Jesus' feet. And now these 3 women showing up once again to anoint Jesus. Who was doing the anointing? Which of the students, which of the followers were showing up to recognize this Jesus anointed? And so, switching over from the metaphysics, just talking about the significance of why this Gospel of Mark would have explained it this way, with the first students showing up in Galilee, being the call of Peter and James and John and the other brothers. And it ends with, who are the students? The women. The women, this aspect of, now what in metaphysics they would call the soul aspect, the emotional content. I don't only see it, I feel it. I feel something happening here. There's that sort of metaphysical, symbolic representation. But was also, and I thank you, Dean. Dean showed me a book the other day. You might remember. It was called After Jesus, Before Christianity. What happened in those 200, 300 years before it was codified and dogmatized and creeds came about? What were the people, the early followers, the early students of this master teacher? What were they doing? They were rocking the empire, man. And one of the ways they did it is they called forward the genius of everybody. They honored, and you don't see this in all the teachers, but an awful lot of the books, an awful lot of the canonical books, and an awful lot of the things we found, say, at Nag Hammadi and other kind of early literature that we found, the women were called forward into leadership. It was gender bending, and men, and women, and Paul and Thecla traveling together, and her mother. There's these early stories of these great, and when you read back, it's like how radical it was. The gender-bending norms of these gospels. The whole movement was started, the first key students that acknowledged the resurrection of Jesus were 3 women. And Mark would have known that if we understand Mark, and it came from these early communities, and as much as scholars can understand, he was representing these communities that was open to I say it's like the genius of everybody. They might have said something like the spiritual gifts of everybody. Anybody who had a spiritual gift was welcomed to bring that to the community. And at the time in the deep patriarchal society that they lived in, that women were doing it was amazing, unheard of, shocking. But the early communities, and if we are going to follow to be students of the master teacher, in the same way, we're called to constantly be gender benders. Where's the gifts? Where's the gifts? What gender? Cisgender? Transgender? Genderqueer? Does that matter? Or indeed, does it matter in the sense that indeed in the followers of this Jesus anointed are saying, allow the gifts of Spirit to come through all people. They did something, this was another thing they did. People were not getting married. In that culture, in that time, you got married. And there's Paul, there's the early teacher saying, actually, it might be good if you don't. It might be good if we have communities where there's single people who are choosing not to live that life. But if you want to get married, that's a good thing too. And here's how it works. And we are open to the expression of the divine. Now, some of this doesn't seem maybe as radical to us, but think of how radical that was for the first century, the common era. It was like shocking. And that's the calling for us, even to continue to this day. Open to the gifts of Spirit from whoever shows up and in any way they want to show up, and not restrict them with cultural and the norms of empire that don't allow people to be the full self of who they are. Radical. You didn't know that was in the Easter story. Yeah. And in all 4 Gospels, the first disciple to proclaim the resurrection was a woman. Usually Mary Magdalene, but in this case, I love that, Salome, Mary of Mother, and it representing love, wisdom, and order. This is the order of things. Yeah. So that was part 1. Part 2, I'm gonna move on, and it sort of goes with it. And I get this from Mary O'Malley, What's in the Way is the Way, chapter 4. That's your homework for next week for those in the class. Have you read it? I know, yeah, you're smiling, I know. And it goes something like this. She ponders this, and the whole premise of this book and this thing is that we can trust life. That we can trust life. And that doesn't mean it's easy. And it doesn't always mean we like it. And it doesn't always mean things worked out the way we would have preferred, but can we trust it? And she asks this exercise. She says, what if you were just to go up to the moon? Go sit on the moon, and you have these special goggles. These are my spiritual binoculars. And with these binoculars, you could look off and you can see the unfolding pattern of the divine play of consciousness through the whole planet. You're looking back on this beautiful Mother Earth. Happy Mother's Day. That was good. Yeah. Mother's Day. Yeah. Mother Earth Day. And when you look back with these special goggles, not only are you sitting up there on the moon looking back on Earth, and not only can you see what's happening now, you can see around the whole world, and you can see it going back billions of years, and you can sort of fuzzily see the pattern unfolding over the next billion years. And you look back and you see, wow, there used to be no life, and then there's life. And now there's things breathing, using oxygen, and the planet turned from brown to blue, and it's coming alive in different ways. And all the different species and all the different animals. And you see the dinosaurs. Here they come and there they go, and you're watching this pattern unfold. And then all of a sudden you see these people, and there's hundreds of thousands of years of these people, and you look up and you say, wait, and then you find, oh wait, look at that guy meets that. Well, how did they meet? That was the most bizarre getting together. And they have 3 kids, and you follow the second kid, and that second kid travels and meets this woman, and it's like, wow, how did they meet? And then they have a kid, and then you're following this daughter, and she goes, and she meets this guy, and and you look at that, and you're following this through. And next thing you know, there's someone, and they're meeting your grandma, and you're watching this unfold, and you're going, this is amazing. You can't make this up. Look at how this is all unfolding. You see the pattern. You see this beauty. You see this unfolding sense of life. And then all of a sudden you're watching your parents. Oh, I'm going to skip that part. And you watch the parents, and there you are. And then you're here. In some wonderful, miraculous way, you show up. And then here we are. I mean, think of this story that unfolded over hundreds of thousands. If not, you can see the connection that goes back millions, billions of years, everything falling in place, just right, emergence, evolution, coming about to get you, to get me. And here we are. And we're together, and we are at this moment that consciousness, that divine consciousness, who's actually looking back on itself right now, going, look at us. Yeah. And then we run into something. Now the story is going forward. Okay, now we get to see going forward. And what do we see going forward? Well, the pattern is still there. The order, the divine order is still there. That life is for us, and it can be trusted. The intelligence of this life, of this pattern, of this unfolding, that we can trust it. Don't always like it. And even Jesus, we're in this Easter season, saw the pattern, saw the unfolding, saw his holding, saw his alignment with divine heart, the divine soul. Even though it went through a time of crucifixion, which, as it says in the Way of Mastery, I don't recommend it. But this was the way forward for him. It was so challenging and so difficult, horrific actually. But here was the way forward to show that this too unfolds, and now here I am. And Mark says, go back to Galilee. Galilee, metaphysically, is an area where it's like a wheel, and it meant like a power wheel. Go back and power up. Now the story, the curtain closes. We're going to go back and we're going to start over. Only we're going to hear these words of Jesus, this story, this unfolding good news. We're going to feel the pattern once again and let it unfold in our lives in a new way. And so when we ask these questions, when we come up against these rocks and we wonder, how will this stone be moved? Just in the acknowledging that we see what's in our way. What is that that's in our way? We see it, and instead of going, oh, it's impossible, can't move the stone, I'm out. The students of Jesus, they walked forward. They said, we don't know exactly how this stone is going to move, but we are going to have confidence, and we're going to walk forward. Divine order will prevail, and when they got there, it had been done. It's sort of like, there's no explanation. It just unfolded. And so I want to leave you with a couple sentences here that I thought. It's something I ponder, and when we reach these parts of the stone and we trust life and the unfolding, I want to suggest to you a couple things. Some questions to ask on our path forward. Because while we sit here and look like everything worked out just perfect, it unfolded great over all these billions of years, it's great, and now it's us, and we go, I don't know if it's going to work. It's been working for millions of years. Can we trust? I mean, we're concerned about the stones being rolled out of the way, and then they were. And then what was in the way? The stone. And now the way opens. The way opens. It's something, sometimes we can say things, and I just want to end with this. There's one thing we will say, like, something difficult will happen in our life, and we'll go, well, everything happens for a reason. And I want to suggest, I don't say that myself, and I'm actually not very comfortable with that myself. And I can see why maybe some people feel comfortable. Just bear with me. If that's something that's important, that kind of phraseology, that's fine, if that works for you. But let me suggest why I think we can up our game up our game from a thought of like everything happens for a reason. And in what I'm saying, it might seem that there's reasons, but I always, when someone says to someone, for example, Kate Bowler in her book, she was suffering with a very difficult illness, and someone said to her, she was like really suffering. They said, "Well, everything happens for a reason." And she goes, "Oh, okay, what? What? Tell me what it is." Like, "Well, I don't really know." It's like, yeah, not helpful. Not helpful. Here's some questions here's some statements or some thoughts we could have instead. We see something difficult happening in someone else or our life or someone else's life, in our culture, in our world. And we can bring different cultures. Like, what could be a culture? There is how am I called to be someone who can move stones out of the way? I could ask a question, what's the way forward for me now? What's the way forward for me now? Or we could ask, what is mine to do, to be, to say that is in line for the highest and best of everybody involved? The highest and best for all involved. And not try to figure out or make it better, try to fix it, try to solve it. That doesn't work so. Have you noticed? Sometimes when we show up, or we show up for another who's going through something, it's like, how can I be there for them? Saying, "Oh, it's all happening for a reason." No. Not helping me. Think about that. Or how do I be and show up now? What's the way forward for all of us? Another good question is, given the situation, how do I serve? How do I serve in love? How do I show up in compassion? How do I serve without an expectation from anything else, but that I see that there is this apparent stone in our consciousness in the way that needs to be rolled away? How do I serve? How do I serve? I think I have one more. Wrote a bunch of these down. Oh, what's asking for my attention right now? What's asking for my attention? Oh, and this is a good one. What am I ready to see? We talked about this last week. In this time of change, can we see it different? And what someone told me later after, it's like, yeah, I see it different, but can we really deeply in our soul, like, and this, you do this, right? In our soul. And who showed up at the tomb? Mary, Salome, and Mary, the mother of James the younger. Boom, 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 boom. All those, if you know the Unity 12 powers, are all located right here. It's like in our gut. How do I just feel that and if I can trust life, and we can trust life, and I can look back over the millions of years and just see, it keeps working out. Not without pain and suffering. I'm not saying that. But if we stay true to be this path like they did, the followers, the students of this Jesus anointed, this community of the way, if I can follow that way of peacemaking, nonviolence, non-judgment, allowance, compassion, transformation, meekness, people willing to grieve, and move other energies into, am I willing to really grieve and feel the pain in the world? Am I willing to show up in that compassionate stance? And still, no matter what, show up in nonviolence and in love. Can I do that? And this is the way. And this is the way. And this was the way of the master teacher Jesus. And that's why when they got to the tomb, he wasn't there. He wasn't there. Next phase. Yeah, we can trust that. We can trust life. So I want to invite you, if you feel comfortable, to close your outer eyes for just a moment. And put yourself with those other students, with Mary and Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the Younger, and Salome, and walking in that road. And they were freshly minted disciples, if you will. And maybe we feel like, well, we've got it down a little better. Or maybe the truth is, in all humility, we are being freshly minted disciples, students all the time. Beginner's mind, open in humility to see what's new. And discussing among ourselves, there seems to be a large stone blocking the way forward. And whatever that large stone is for you, if it's in your personal life and some kind of family relationship, in the broader country, in your state, community, your job, whichever that is. And then we lean back into the sense of the unfolding of the divine order through billions of years of grandeur and beauty and transformation and love and compassion. And then we trust that the way is open, it is available, and we're curious. Be curious. What is the next step? Ask yourself, what is the next step for me on the way? How may I serve? I'm going to be curious about how I can show up. I'm going to ponder what is the way for me to be here now as the student of life, of the energy of the Christ, which is not only the person of the historical nature, it is the very being of my true identity. The I am consciousness of me is alive, can lead. We allow it to lead. And what is the way I show up now, today, this afternoon, this week? Who am I going to be? What will I say and what will I do for the highest and the best and the most compassionate and the most beautiful and the deepest, profoundest good for all? What is mine to do now? Here's the next question. We go back to Galilee, we go back and spiral up, and we go back and power up, and we start anew. And now, how do I show up? How do we show up? And ponder that for a moment in the silence. In the silence. And then Rosemarie is going to come up and talk about. So my first announcement already mentioned Saturday visioning. I know there's going to be a lot of things coming up, but it's so, like, to get the chance, I can't express how much we want to hear from anybody who can possibly be here about the vision going forward for the next number of years for Unity of Bellingham. There is something more immediate coming up, and we've mentioned this a few times, but in September we're hosting the Unity Regional Conference right here. So there's a lot of visioning that people have been doing to get ready in the short term. But this isn't only a short term. It's like, let's take this opportunity to envision not only how we're manifesting, but envision mission-wise of where we want to go forward for the next number of years, so that we once we have the vision and we buy in, then it really gives us all a direction. The board has done this exercise, and it was so much fun, and it was so good. We said, we got to get everybody involved. We want to hear from everybody. So please, next week, 3 to 5, come. We'll be doing a vision. Also, our Earth Care team, we were planning something for Earth Day, but we ended up doing so much work. Thank you. By the way, thank you, Jim, Jane, and all the people who did the mushroom logs. Yeah, that was amazing. He said, we'll come out and get a few people a few times. I think you came out 6 times and had 12 to 15 people. And each, how many? 30 people took place, yeah, for the mushroom logs. So we decided as the Earth Care team that was a pretty good Earth Day event. Yeah, that was good. And then my friend Linda Conroy, you know Still Point community over here on Noon Road. Anyhow, there's a flyer up on the bulletin board. If you've never been to Still Point or you're interested, it's a lovely little home community, intentional community. Many of you have been there. I've been there and seen many of you there. And they're having sort of an open house 1 to 4 to walk a labyrinth and celebrate, and you can weave something into the web of interconnectedness that our Multi-Faith Network for Climate Justice has been working on, and just spend some time out in nature at Still Point. If you want the address, or if you're just looking for somewhere to pop in for 15 minutes, half hour, for Earth Day, there's a flyer up on the board. I'll probably be over there sometime in the afternoon. It's on Tuesday. Earth Day's Tuesday. We'll see you then. And now, for the Easter event you've been waiting for, Rosemarie will come up and...